Hi, favored ones. Welcome to Soul Talk. Our guest for today is Jaime Benedicto. He is the executive director and one of the founders of BANTU Philippines. It's a nonprofit that uses the art of capoeira to fight poverty by empowering at-risk youth and their communities. Actually, he's also an educator like me. Pero he uses, of course, capoeira to express it. Let's all welcome him, and I hope that you enjoy this conversation. I'm so excited for this one. Let's all welcome Jaime. Hi, Jaime. Kumusta?
Thank you for having me, Michelle, and hello to everybody. Thank you for the welcome, and yeah, thanks for the great introduction. I think you said it all. I guess just to say a little bit about me, again, Jaime Benedicto, but I also go by Jay. And yes, I've been doing capoeira since I was much younger. I taught a class yesterday, and I started doing capoeira. And these people who were in the class were in senior high school, I think, or almost senior high school. And I started doing capoeira before they were born. So that's how long I've been doing it. And as you said, yeah, I also work in the education sphere now, using capoeira, using art, music, philosophy, tradition. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things because the work is also very holistic. So yeah, we approach things from many different angles.
Right now, kasi of course, working at the nonprofit, of course, supporting the community, supporting the youth that you work with, even with the pandemic, it's still continuous, right? So,
Mhm.
kamusta? How busy are you guys?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I guess it's those are really two things, right? Because like if anybody out there has worked for a nonprofit or started a nonprofit, or any business actually, you know how busy it is. You know that at the beginning you end up doing almost everything. And I guess that's kind of where I find myself. I teach the classes, I supervise my youth leaders who teach the classes with me, but it's also a process of grooming them, of mentoring them, of training them. And then there's the business, the more business related side, which would be things like marketing, things like social media, things like working on our partnerships, applying for grants, looking for funding. It's definitely a lot of work. To go to your question about the pandemic, yeah, it's been really difficult. I at the beginning, I'll admit I had a lot of trouble adjusting because um, pre-pandemic, I guess like Monday to Saturday, I would be out doing my classes, and engaging physically with the kids, with the teachers, hundreds of kids every week in different parts of the city. And you can imagine how jarring the lockdown was because suddenly everybody has to stay home. I had three boys living with me at the time, and so we were all stuck there. And like all of the uncertainty, it was very confusing. But we decided at the beginning, that what was needed was to kind of pivot our efforts to first humanitarian support for the families that were affected by the very strict lockdown at the beginning, the hard lockdown. There, I remember what it was called. So from, I guess, last year, from March to around August, we were weekly sending supply packages to the community we support in San Andres Bukid in Manila. And after that, we turned our efforts more towards online schooling, because while it's a laudable effort by the government to continue with educational services for youth. Unfortunately, the means by which the Department of Education is pursuing its plans leaves a lot of young people excluded. No, what about the kids who can't afford cell phones? What about the kids who don't have a place to do their modules, to do their homework? Who don't have money to buy load every week? So we, a lot of those kids are our students. So we turned our efforts towards supporting them. And then late last year, we were able to restart our online capoeira classes with youth in institutions. So youth were all living together already. So yes, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. I will say I think we've been very lucky throughout this experience to have some great support from our donors and from our family and friends. That's really helped keep Bantu going. I think through an extraordinarily chaotic and disorganized time over the last few months.
Pero I can just imagine kasi, oh my gosh, a lot of kids are really left behind. even if the DepEd has rolled out all these, modular courses and stuff, it's ang ano pa rin, there's really a lot of challenges. So so you guys were able to help out the youth within the communities that you chose, which is in San Andres, right?
Yes, that's correct. We've provided several cell phones through donations, either old models of phones or today actually I think I'm getting more than 10 phones from a friend who's coming in from abroad. She collected some phones from old phones from a company that's no longer using them, so we're going to distribute those to some young people. We've also collected money for load, yun nga, load, because kids need load every week because not everybody has Wi-Fi, not everybody can afford it. No, actually, we're also, aside from supporting the youth in San Andres, we're helping some kids who are again institutionalized by paying for their load every week. Also, because their teachers asked us for help. Unfortunately, their teachers can't go there every week like they used to before the pandemic. So they asked us if it was something that would be possible. Um, because we do realize how absurd the notion of trying to teach someone by meeting them once a week online and then just giving them a lot of homework. It's quite it's not something that all young people will be able to adjust to and to flourish in. And it's not fair to expect them to either. No, I see like. I live again with some of my students here, and so I accompany their online classes, and I think that's one of the major challenges as well. I feel like we have the logistics in place for the online classes, but the training for the teachers, it should have focused more as well on kind of this understanding as well that this is a very difficult experience that we're still all living through, and more so for young people than for adults, and that we need to adjust. We need to adjust our expectations for youth who are in school because they're trying. They're trying. The fact that they're going, the fact that they're still doing their assignments, it's very difficult for them. And the fact that they're trying is something in and of itself already that we should acknowledge, and not just how well they're doing in terms of their scores.
When you started Bantu, because when I read the write-ups about Bantu, it's using capoeira to empower. But have you envisioned working in such a way to provide the basic needs of the youths that you're working with, di ba? Kasi parang nag-shift siya ng konti.
Yeah, I understand. Well, for me, I think to answer your question, like in the beginning, probably not. I probably didn't. But I started working with kids almost 10 years ago. Um, and I've been practicing capoeira diligently, very diligently, all throughout the time that I've been practicing, which is over almost 18 years already. Um, and like the more that I learn about capoeira, the more that I deepen my understanding of what I do, the more I realize how necessary it is to support kids on this level. Excuse me. Capoeira was started by African slaves who were brought to Brazil, right, and basically brought there to act as slave labor for the Portuguese. So deprived of all of their human rights and just put there to work and then to die and then to be replaced to work to make more money for their masters, right? And capoeira was a way for them to support themselves, to have community, to support themselves physically, but also to empower them, like in terms of their spirit, their mind, their connection to their culture, right? So capoeira has always been a social tool, a tool to empower those who are oppressed, right? It continued that way even up until today, in the marginalized communities in Brazil. Um, and so we follow that social line, I guess, that social trajectory. Na when we can't just support them in one way. If it's possible for us to empower them in other ways, for them to be successful in life, then we should. Because unfortunately, we understand that having seen this happen over and over again to millions of our countrymen, that we can't really expect other people to do it, especially people in the government. So to answer your question, yeah, I think the more that I see, the more that I understand capoeira, and the more that I work with youth using capoeira, I see more that understanding that it's about supporting them so that they can become successful in life, right? And that is looking like more than capoeira, right? It looks like that capoeira, we need to give them more than that, right? Aside from all of the lessons that capoeira can teach them, they also need the other things. They also need the other forms of support, just like any other child, right? Just like any other child.
Hello. Do you find yourself stretch from time to time? Because it's not just about teaching capoeira anymore. This is, um, ensuring that the kids that you work with have better and successful lives in the future. And it's when I think about it, it's such a big role to take. And you have the organization. It has to continue to grow. And I'm sure you also encounter a lot of challenges in terms of growth. Parang, did you find yourself stretched from that?
Um, one of the key concepts that underpins capoeira. No, capoeira is based on a lot of Afro-Brazilian philosophy, right? And there are a lot of values that underpin capoeira that are particular to the African way of thinking and conceiving the world, their cosmology. And one of these things is the idea of circularity, of circles, right? That's why capoeira is practiced in a circle. That's why when we talk to the kids, we talk a lot about cycles and repeating cycles, like each year. And as you learn, you always learn, and you learn and then you relearn something, you master something, and then you start at the beginning and develop an even deeper understanding of that thing, right? So where am I going with this? I find that to be a very interesting question, right? Because, excuse me, my throat's particularly dry. But
It's okay.
uh, um, uh, I find that to be an interesting question because while most people might think that it's a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, as you pointed out, it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of things to commit yourself to. um, I find that the rigorousness of the process actually has helped me as a person, right? The difficulty, the struggle of the process has made me stronger, right? So it's in that sense of the circle, it's one thing feeding into the other. I do understand that, yes, I do feel stretched, but I feel like because it's stretching me, it's leaving me bigger. It's like I remember this. I was listening to somebody talk, right, and he was saying that the mind, and I guess in this case, like people, were like plastic bags. No, whenever we grow, like we don't shrink back to our original shape. So I do feel stretched, but I welcome it. I welcome it. I use it as fuel to build myself and make myself bigger, right? I joke with people a lot, because I say that I intentionally decided to live with my students because I wanted the difficulty of the task, because these are three young people who grew up mostly outside on the street. So they bring with them all of those different mindsets and perspectives that often will be in conflict with mine, because I grew up, in a well-off family, like, we were okay. Um, and it's always about negotiating, learning how to adjust, learning how to grow, how to help them grow, but also helping them grow helps me grow, because this process of adjustment, this process of learning, right? It's impossible for them to learn without me learning as well, as an educator. And that's something that we teach our kids as well. When you teach, you learn. And when you learn from someone, you're teaching them something, right? Something I think that's missing largely, from the educational scene here in the Philippines, no teachers. So I welcome it, honestly. I feel like I'm better for all of the challenges that I'm able to face constantly and overcome. And all of the ones that I'm not able to overcome yet, I realize that these are moments for me, or they're opportunities for me to reflect as well, reflect on how I can overcome them one day in the future. Or maybe it's something that I need to change about myself, or is it a question of prioritization, and maybe things need to move around a bit, So it's good. It's good. It's yeah, I find it to be a good stretching.
Oh, I read some of your posts in Facebook, and I noticed that, as you teach your kids, you also become more self-aware. Parang ang ganda ng
Sure.
mga realizations mo when you share those realizations in Facebook. It's like, oh, this is he's sharing something very private, but then, it's a good learning
Mm.
in some way. Parang like, okay to, I love it. Pero speaking of being bigger, what are the, looking pre-pandemic and right now, what's the major difference? I mean, in what way are you bigger right now?
Mm. When you were talking about the posts, and to your question, I thought of this saying I read by it's a saying from Rumi, the mystic, and he said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world, and today I'm wise, so I want to change myself." Right? And I think that's an excellent way for people who work in the education space, especially if you work with young people who have problems, who have trauma, who have things that they need to overcome in life to be successful. Surprisingly, it's more for me about how much I can change myself before I can change them, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest gifts that this difficult ordeal of the pandemic has given me, and by extension my work, Bantu, is that, as you said, that self-awareness, that ability to self-reflect, because I don't think, honestly, that it would have been this easy to survive all of that, right? Like being cut off from all of our classes, from all of our traditional sources of income, being cut off from all of that. If we weren't able to adjust, if I wasn't able to adjust and make a lot of those changes, those difficult changes in myself, right? I've had to do things that maybe 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I would never have considered doing. A lot of a lot of it to do with what you were talking about, with social media, with marketing, with being open and willing to share. And it's also kind of given us a new perspective, right, on what it is that we're doing, what the work is that we're doing. Who would have thought that something like capoeira, which is this very little known Afro-Brazilian art form, could have so much perspective in terms of education, right? So I think honestly that's it. Again, it's those changes that you're able to make as a person, um, as a result of the difficulties of the pandemic. For me, at least, they've been the most valuable because thankfully, I'm able to apply them to my work, whether it's how I deal with my students, with the kids, or whether it's how I approach the more business related side of Bantu, of running the organization, and how we're going to bring it forward. So I would think that's it. I would think that's it. I don't, I mean, I realize how hard the pandemic has been, but I honestly can't say like that. I believe that for me at least there was a reason why like I had to go through all of these things because it's been a very meaningful process of self-discovery. Very painful at times for sure, very difficult at times, very challenging, but very productive as well. So it's all good in the end.
Talagang self-discovery, no?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Gosh, it's actually yung process of self-discovery, it's really the process of being stretched outside your comfort zone, your limits, and you've experienced it during this past
Mm,
2 years, and this is
yeah.
the platform that's being used as an instrument to help you grow as a person as well. And I am really surprised that capoeira has a lot of wisdom behind it, the way you talk. Whereas I go, oh,
Mm.
it's like a master speaking.
Oh, no, not even close. But I find it as well like when I work with youth, right? Because we're all going through the same thing. We're all experiencing this, as you said, this stretching, right? And our natural reaction as human beings is to resist. It's to want things to just be easy. And like for example, for me and the boys that we work with, and everyone like I deal with in our classes, it's about helping them understand that as well, that this is a unique opportunity, right? And unfortunately, as we all know, like there are just so many people who are not aware of themselves, and it's a very uncomfortable subject for, especially for young people. They don't even want to talk about it, but they're doing. I mean, like at least I can say for the youth who are here with me, like I see it. You know how they struggle to go through school, even if they don't do well. But the thing is, I know them. I know their history. I know where they come from, and like just the effort of like getting up in the morning at a certain time and forcing themselves to do the work, even if they don't do the work well. The act of doing the work is what matters. I think it's the effort and their persistence, no, their willingness to change, and I think that's super important. And I think like as teachers, it's important to recognize that in our students. I mean, especially in our younger students who will more likely be less self-aware and able to express that part of themselves, to see those little things. And that's something that capoeira teaches also, like how to be very what's the word? Very perceptive when you see things. Because when you play capoeira with someone, in a lot of ways, you're trying to discern what they're trying to do or what they're trying to hide from you with their body, with their movement. So you have to be very skilled at watching. And like, my teacher is great at doing that. My teacher, our Master Hoshio is great at doing that. Yeah, yeah, I think it's a matter of perspective. It's really a matter of perspective what we're going through right now.
Parang it's really understanding human behavior, the way
Sure,
you
sure.
explain it. And I like the word that you use when we play
Yeah,
capoeira.
the
So
capoeira is a
it's really a
game.
play. Yun talaga yung term na ginagamit.
Yes, in Brazil, it's always the word play. Capoeira is a reflection of life, right? Many people who play capoeira say that capoeira is like this microscopic version of the real world that we live in. And why we say play is because like life in many ways is like play, but life, as we know, can go from being very light to very heavy very quickly. Play can turn into something else very quickly. Same in capoeira. And that's why it's great for working with young people, because it's about helping them understand the very subtle levels that exist in life and in playing capoeira. They're the same, like the nuances that can change very rapidly. You know, young people from disadvantaged communities, there isn't a lot of nuance. Let's say it's very one volume. Their lives. It's very loud. It's very very high energy. You know, it's very extreme, up and down, up and down. There's not a lot of in all of the senses, in terms of the food that they eat, in terms of the noise in their area, in terms of like the behavior of the people around them. No? And it's a challenge for them to learn how to navigate the different social strata, the levels, no? That exist in more structured environments, like a workplace, like school, like anything, you know, like a relationship with someone outside of their community, you know. And capoeira can teach them that, and we see it in our students, in our leaders. No, they work with youth in different countries, with their teachers in different countries. Um, but it's a process. It's a lot of mentoring. It's a lot of counseling, a lot of guidance and direction setting for them as well. So yeah, it's a game. It's a game. It's a game. Just like life is. Just like life is.
Like, amazing. Kasi lumalaki yung mundo nila.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
for
For
you,
sure.
for
Mm.
you, what are the important lessons that you have faced during these times, or even in the span of your practice of capoeira? Parang ano ba yung mga important lessons that you really were able to embody and learn from what it is that you do?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I love how interconnected my work and the practice of capoeira are, for me at least. Like, I see it that way. I see everything as like just one entangled web, right? When we were talking about the delicate nature of how you have to manage when you play capoeira with someone, like when you should do this, when you should do that, when you should be far, when you should be close. I see the same thing all the time when I interact with my students, right? And like it's complicated because like when you add that element of human relationships to things, it always complicates things, right? It complicates judgment, right? And in capoeira, you when you lose your focus, when you lose your poise, that's the word I want to use, your poise, your composure, that's when you're going to get caught. That's when you're going to make a mistake, and then something's going to happen. And it's the same in when I work with my students. When I work with my students, it's the same. So I think that again, that composure, that poise, that ability to adjust, that flexibility, and as I think you pointed out, that willingness to, or that awareness, that self-awareness, knowing when you're feeling a particular way, knowing when you should not say anything instead of saying something. These are extremely important lessons for me as a teacher. I think, no, as you were talking about earlier, I often post about things like frustration and anger and like keeping your mouth shut when you feel like saying something. Like again, the quote I shared the other day, the best remedy for anger is delay. I find that to be so true, 100%. Like, I consider it a very big personal loss when I say something to one of my students that I wish I could take back, because it's your concern for them to be better that stresses you out, as a person. But I think a good teacher can see beyond the stress and beyond, like they can see further, because those things are very immediate. When they make a mistake, you feel like I need to correct the mistake, right? But I feel like a better teacher can see bigger than that. Like, but correcting the mistake maybe is not just like right now. Maybe, right now you can do something, just to call their attention, and then later you can have a bigger conversation with them about stuff, right? I think just maybe a couple of more things. I think like in my experience as a teacher and researching education, I came across the work of Paulo Freire, who's a Brazilian philosopher whose philosophy is what we seek to embody here. The idea that learning is not like a banking transaction where the teacher takes something and deposits it into the mind of the student. We don't look at learning as that. We approach learning as something that we do together, teachers, students, and student teachers, like we were talking about earlier, where the teacher is also a student and the student is also a teacher. And we discover, Paulo Freire uses that very beautiful language where he says we discover the universe together, right? That which means that we construct like what we believe together. Everything we do is something we do together, and that's something that empowers the student more, I think, than just like the teacher saying, this is what you should know, this is what you should know. Because then you put the relationship like this, right? The teacher's up here and the student's down here. And we think it should be more, more horizontal, because it gives them that confidence as well. And then like, even if I'm a kid who grew up on the street, like, the tendency for kids who grow up on the street is to think that they're dumb, and that their teachers are smart, and that everyone else who has money is smart. They don't understand that there's a larger social context that's the reason that they're in the situation that they're in, right? And we encourage them to believe that no, you're not dumb. You just have a different set of knowledge than I do. Right? They know so much that I will never understand. Like when they explain things to me about how to do things, stuff that they need to do to survive there. They just have such a keen understanding of many subjects that I don't have, right? And just because I know certain things, that doesn't mean that my knowledge is better than their knowledge. They're just different. So this process of learning with our students, of acknowledging all of their information, accepting it, trying to understand it, I will say it's a harder process, right? It's a harder process because you're approaching students kind of from a more equal space, right? Not from this space, because when we're in this kind of hierarchical space, you can tell students what to do, right? I can tell you, no, you're wrong just because you're wrong. Right, but when you approach them like from a more equal space, you have to help them understand why they're wrong, right? And you have to accept that sometimes they're not gonna accept what you say, and then you just have to have that conversation again at another time, right? And that's why Paulo Freire, the philosopher who came up with this, he said, to love is an act of courage, right? And I believe that because when you love somebody, you have to face a lot of difficulties, right? Because when you love them, you don't try to own them. When you love them, you don't try to tell them what to do. When you love them, you don't try to make them something else. You try to help them become the best version of themselves, of who they are and of who they want to be, right? And that's really hard because you have to be very unselfish to do that, right? For example, I have students who they tell me things that they do with their friends when they go home to their community. Like, oh my God. Like when I hear it, I'm like, oh my God. Like, but in my mind, I'm like, I want to say so many things. I want to say so many things about why that's wrong. But I don't want them to feel judged. I don't want them to feel judged. So at those times, I just think I'll look for another moment to say it. I'll open it in another conversation. Be more general. Don't talk specifically about what they were doing at that time. And again, this is all related to capoeira again, because capoeira is always about judging when you're supposed to do something and how and to what extent. And lastly, I guess the last thing, because I think it's really important, a really important tool again for educators is perspective, perception. These things are essential, right? Just the realization that there's so few things that we can control, and that the only real thing we can control is ourselves and our behavior, and the rest is we have to let it go, right? I forgot who said it. Somebody said something like this, but you expect less and just accept more, right? Accept things as they are and expect less. Because especially again, this is where the human behavior part comes in. When you care about people, you want them to do well, and so you expect them to act a certain way instead of just accepting what they choose. And in the end, we have to respect that people will choose to do what they want to do. And it just really stresses us out a lot of the time. I feel stressed out a lot of the time because of like my expectations, and I'll always write that down. I keep like a journal, and whenever that happens, I'll write it down. Like, this was all because of my expectations of something, and like it was a mistake to do that. And like the lesson is to expect less, expect less, and don't let everything affect you, right? Not one of the Stoics said that not everything is entitled to your opinion. You can just think nothing about something, even if it's something that would stress you normally. You can choose not to think anything about it, just let it go, right? So yeah, I think those are just some of the important lessons that I use every day, all the time. Otherwise, I'd go crazy. Otherwise, I'd go crazy.
Sobra, lalo na kung different ang worldviews ninyo ng students mo. I can
Very
relate
different.
to that. You're right when you said that you need to expect less, and a lot of times go back to ourselves. Did
Mm,
something wrong? Is there something that we should have done in a better way? Parang
mm,
laging balik ng balik kasi hindi natin mabe-blame sila for their actions or for their
mm,
choices or yung
mm,
kinalabasan ng results, 'di ba?
mm,
Lalo na
mm,
when it's the two of us, I mean, a teacher-student relationship, there's
mm,
two in that relationship. So hindi naman
mm.
pwede puro students lang ang mali, 'di ba?
No, no, no. Again, one saying that I use all the time, again from another Stoic philosopher, is be strict with yourself and lax with others. Like always, what you can expect, who you can expect something from is yourself, because you can control yourself. And them, our students are not in our control. We can't like manipulate them to act as we would like. So, but we can do that for ourselves. So we should expect more from ourselves and less of others. I think it's a great way to think.
Yes, that's a great way to think. And thank you for sharing that, for reminding me of that. Sige, ito, medyo last na. So, how do you, when you started, what motivated you to start, founding Bantu? I mean, when you founded Bantu here in the Philippines, what motivated you? And is it still the same kind of motivation now that you're, running it almost, parang one-man band ka na lang nga eh, kung totoosin. Kasi you have a group of volunteers, but then
Yeah,
you're the person who's ang fixture na dyan. So is it,
right.
the energy when you started, is it the same kind of energy now that you're running it almost 10 years? Tama, di ba?
Mm.
Almost 10 years na
Yeah,
Bantu here in the
yeah.
Philippines.
Next year. Next year will be our 10th year. Yeah. So yay. um,
Anniversary.
yeah. I just thought about that now actually. I didn't realize it until we just talked about it. Look, I think first of all, I do a lot of the work, but it's not just my work. No, I tell people that I don't I think like I guess maybe I've just been doing capoeira for so long, no? But um, when we talk about like the circle of capoeira, the hoda, you call it a hoda, the circle. When we talk about a hoda, it's everybody. It's everybody there, even if it's just the people watching or if they're just singing. And they don't play any of the instruments or don't do like the more major tasks, it's still their participation that makes the hoda possible, right? It's everybody. And so I never truly feel alone, honestly, because I feel the support that everybody gives, whether that's big support or small support. I don't know. I just feel it, and it helps me move forward. I feel more empowered, more secure, more stable, and more solid. Like there's a whole army of people behind me who believe in what I'm doing. And I can't say in words how great that feeling is. Um, when we started Bantu again, I had no. Uh, I didn't fully understand what it was or where it could go. And I think that's something that's so very endlessly exciting for me, is that each day I discover more possibilities as time goes by, more possibilities for things we can do to make the situation better through capoeira, right? I never thought we'd be talking about things like employment and community development and investment in the community through capoeira, right? Who would have thought? Um, and yet here we are, talking about it. I never thought that we would be able to do all of the things that we're doing with our youth leaders who started out just as like 14, 13-year-olds on the street, and to see them teaching like kids from abroad. So, my teacher said it, like he was talking to them. He said, "You guys are recognized internationally. Like you have to see how important that is for a batang kalye, a kid from the street, to be recognized internationally by folks in Australia, from the US, from Japan, from Vietnam. I mean, who can say that about themselves, diba? So it's just there's so much work ahead, and for some reason that excites me. I don't know if that's a bad sign, but just knowing that there's so much more to do, it gives me more energy. Honestly, it gives me more energy, more drive to look for the resources to make it possible and to do it. And I guess like one thing that really fuels me right now is the idea that we want to build something that will last beyond us, that will be handed down to our students, for them to carry on, for them to use as a means for them to survive and to help others learn the same. So it's not the same energy, not even close. I feel like it's 10 times the energy, and it just keeps getting bigger. It's strange, right? Again, I think, like, I always think when I think about capoeira, it's always in contradictions. It's always like in opposites. I feel like what I was saying was that there's so much more work to do, but where that might scare somebody else, it actually makes me feel more. It actually gives me more energy to try and do all of that work.
Really amazing. It's like you're the one who's the link between the disadvantaged youth and all those people who'd want to help but don't know where to,
Right,
fund their, pour their resources. Parang ikaw yung nandun, you're narrowing that gap. And it's good
right.
that kids are able to experience, life outside the Philippines and be, as what your teacher has said, be recognized by
Yeah,
the international community. That must have boosted so much their confidence, their
yeah.
belief in themselves.
Mm, mm. Yeah, for sure. I think for the kids, it's an amazing experience. I think, like, slowly. I told my teacher this once. I said to him, like, because I was starting to get again frustrated, because like I expected something from my students. Like, I expected them to be, like, I had a plan in mind for their development, and like they were developing in another way maybe. And I said, I guess they'll
Parang
just
tatay ka na.
yeah, they'll just, maybe they won't develop in the way that normal people won't will normal so-called normal people. And he said, well, how could they, like, given the backgrounds that they've had, right? Given the trauma, given the all of these things, like, they will it's unlikely that they will learn and grow in the same way that kids who never had that would. And that's not good or bad. Again, it's just going to be different. So for me, as you were saying, like, while I agree, I am kind of that bottleneck where people who want to support communities can access them through me. I one day I would like to have that not just be me, but also the kids themselves, right? Where they could somehow one day in this organization take some of that as well, like learning how to speak English and how to communicate with them, and, like, helping out in that way as well. I think would be such an achievement, because I think we need to kind of understand that especially the people from disadvantaged communities, that there isn't this this idea that there's this social gap as well between rich and poor is it's all in the mind, right? It's all in the mind. It's something people believe in, and that's why it's real. Um, and yeah, I you know, I hopefully that's something that we can bring to reality one day.
No, to close this all, this conversation, what message can you share to us or to those who are watching? Um, what kind of mindset or what kind of heart does one need to have so that you could, continuously achieve your goals and still be happy and at peace? Because parang you're even with all the challenges that you're facing, you're so passionate with what you're doing, and you know that this is the platform that God gave you to serve our community, serve, help out these kids. What kind of mindset, for does a person need to have, or that kind of heart for you to be able to reach that point in life?
Hmm. Well, that's a great question.
Kasi I'm
um,
sure when you kasi I'm
yeah.
sure when you started meron pa sigurong questions, "Tama ba 'tong ginagawa ko? Parang ito ba 'yun?" Parang 'di ba? But then you somehow ease into it and you know that this is really your calling. This is where you're placed to help out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think Winston Churchill said one thing that always comes to mind is like Winston Churchill said, we we get a living from, sorry, this is going to be a horrible paraphrasing of what he said. We get a living from, or we make a living from what we get, but we make a life from what we give, right? I think this idea that we have to kind of, again, it for me, I think it's a process of introspection, of looking inward, right? And the finding that thing that, as you said, means something to you, that thing that will give you the drive to wake up every morning, to swallow all of the challenges that come at you, and eventually to swallow them and to realize that these things that you're consuming, that you're overcoming, are actually what are going to make you into the person that you need to be, to do the work that you need to do. And that's why I guess, as I was saying, the more work I see all of those challenges and work, not as something to be feared, but as something that will make me better, as fuel to make me something more than I am today. And so I look forward to all of these things and to overcoming them. And I guess, I suppose it's an important mindset to have, right? If you want to face something big, to take on something big, like fighting poverty, you have to have that kind of mindset where you yourself will need to make a lot of self-sacrifice and changes. But I don't think that that's just. I think that the scale of what we're trying to achieve in life is relative, right? We could also apply this to something like business or a career in teaching or public speaking. Again, I think it's that mindset. I think, as you said, first of all, it's just looking for something that you resonate with, something that, again, gives you that drive to work hard, to be alive every day, right? And pursuing that. I think a lot of people, sometimes we're all conditioned from a young age to seek financial security. Um, and sometimes we may conflate that idea with happiness and satisfaction. And I don't think the two are, sometimes I'm sure they will coincide, but I don't think that they always coincide. And I guess I just believe, like what Winston Churchill said, like you can live from what you get, from the money that you may get, but will you find life there is another question entirely, right? And that's something we need to understand for ourselves. I think that if for teachers and for people who work in a space where they give a lot, one thing I've learned from the pandemic, for sure, is that you also have to receive a lot. What you give to others, you must also be receiving in your own life from one source or another. And again, just um, always believe in the power of yourself to control yourself and your perceptions, and how your perceptions affect you, right? It's the only thing that we can really control, right? When you have control over your mind and your thoughts, you have so much power because you can determine whether things will affect you or not. So I guess those are just the things I would. For me, I was lucky enough to slip into it, you know. And it's, I don't know how this will sound, but it's not something that I've consciously been working on or pursuing. It's almost as if it's never really been a question for me whether or not I should do this. I always have known that I should do this. Since I started doing it, it's not something I've questioned too much. Um, and more recently, though, I will say like that I've just been keen to observe the signs, you know, keen to observe signs. Like I've just always noticed that no matter how bad the situation gets, there's just always a way to get out of it. There's just always some form of support that arrives. And it's never gotten so bad that I've doubted whether I should do it. So I take that as the universe saying, no, keep going, keep going, keep going. There's more, there's still more ahead to do, right? And over the years, I've just had, I've experienced that so many times. And now like, I feel like we're entering that space where now it's about making something solid. Now it's about making something solid. So I'm just, I think that if you work hard enough at something and long enough at something, you know, it pays off. And you know, obviously, it's never good to compare yourself with others, and just accept that your journey is going to be your journey, and that it does not need to look like anybody else's journey in order to mean something, right? It only needs to mean something to you. For it to mean, it needs to mean something to you first before it can mean anything to other people. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say
Beautifully
about that.
said. I love it. Ano, pero alam mo, hearing you speak, the more I'd want to support the organization.
Great.
I'm going
Oh,
to
well,
share your Patreon link to my friends and to my community.
awesome, awesome. Well, look, I obviously should have done this at the beginning, but I just want to say thank you again for having me for this platform, and I guess like you know to open the minds of people as well to understand that like to support somebody is not just to give them money, right? Although that's great. Don't get me wrong, and we do need it. But there's so many ways to collaborate and to support, whether it's something like this or whether it's you know expertise in whatever area, volunteering your expertise. It's all good. It's all useful. And yeah, thank you so much again. And just for everybody else who's listening to this, if you'd like to support, as Michelle said, there are regular ways that you can give, like $5 a month goes such a long way for an organization as small as ours. You know, I promise to be very diligent about updates, so you'll definitely see how your money is being used. I think we're doing something very different. I hope that came across here. It's not just teaching kids how to do capoeira, a physical movement, but it also involves questions of how to build them as better people, and by extension, how to build their communities, right? Because that has to be the end of this. That has to be the end of this. If we truly want to help young people, then we have to address the social and economic conditions that keep them down. Because like, and that was the true question at the beginning that kind of motivated us to enter into all of these other things. What would we have achieved if we taught them how to be very good at capoeira, but they still stayed poor? It would have still ended, the story would have ended in the same way. They would have still turned to drugs or to crime, or you know, been miserable in financial misery for the rest of their lives. And so we're really trying to mobilize to do something bigger for them. And this is just a great platform and opportunity. So thank you for giving it to us.
I super love it. But thank you so much as well for your time. I love the nuggets of wisdom that you have shared, not just to me, but also those who are going to watch this. And I'm sure that this is all divinely planned. But God bless. I mean, really, really, for all the activities that you have lined up, for all the people who are supporting you and the organization. I know it's a huge, huge tribe and community, and may it continue to be as supportive and prosperous so that we could also
Yep,
help
for
back
sure,
talaga.
for
It's
sure.
all about giving back. So thank you so
Mm.
much. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank
For those who
you.
are watching this, for the favored ones, I wish you all well. I hope that you have learned so much from this conversation. And maybe this is the opportunity to take a look at what capoeira is all about and what Bantu is all about. So I wish you all well. Take care. And if you love this content, please share the link. We have a YouTube link. But I'm also going to share the Patreon link of Bantu. So it could also help even in small ways. And if you want to collaborate, there's always Jay. All
There
right.
is.
So God bless
And sorry,
everyone.
sorry. Follow us at Bantu Philippines on social media.
Yes. I-share ko rin yan. Okay. God bless.
Thanks,
Take
Michelle.
care.
Thank you.